Hi, I'm Phil Hewett. I'm running for the board, and I thought it'd be pretty exciting to bring Bill, the committee member who's in charge of the Harbour Club, to tell us a little about what's going on and what's actually happening.
Okay, I'm going to give you a virtual tour of the building. We're going to start out in this area, which will be the administration offices, and they will face basically towards Pelican over this way. And that is about a 2,100 square foot area in the building. It's just a minor portion of the building. And in the front of the building, there's an entrance, a covered porch entrance. There'll be parking on that side, adjacent to Pelican. And as you come in to the administrative building, you're going to have a view that goes all the way through the building. So you will see the inner harbor, the shoreline docks, and all the cul-de-sacs on the other side of the inner harbor.
That sounds pretty exciting, Bill.
It is very exciting. It's a wonderful view.
All right, Bill, why don't we walk down the hall and towards the meeting rooms, and you can tell us about their sizes and why they were done that way.
Very good. Let's go. As we continue our tour, these meeting rooms that we have are very important because of the number of clubs we have. We have 62 clubs, which involve every kind of activity imaginable. And our existing meeting rooms have been outdated and not well used for 20 years. They've been undersized and too many requests for spaces that can't accommodate everybody. So that dictated that we increase the number of spaces, increase the room sizes. We have one large meeting room, which can be used by 100 people, and it can be broken down with a folding partition that 60 people can be in one half of that room and then 40 people on the other side. The other meeting rooms, the other three meeting rooms are smaller to accommodate smaller groups, like from 15 to 28 people or something like that. Yeah, the large meeting room, which will accommodate up to 100 people, is actually attached to the boardroom. The boardroom is actually the existing size of the existing boardroom. It's the same size, but it can be opened up and people can overflow if we have a need for additional attendees at different kinds of meetings into that larger space, which can accommodate another 100 people.
So you can actually see another 100 people in that room,
right.
And the board doesn't have to move. It
right.
can actually
right.
Be involved in
right.
the process.
Right.
Okay. So I know that you talked a little about all these meeting rooms. Do homeowners and property owners have to pay for these meeting rooms?
No. That's part of being in the community. This whole facility is for our Fairfield Harbor residents, all their activities. There's no additional cost to have a function at a meeting room.
The goal was it to be an amenity for all to use.
Okay. That's right.
All right. How about at this point, Bill, I'll open the imaginary door, right, that will divide the administrative and the meeting areas, and we're now going into...
We're going into an area that is a catering kitchen. There's a supply room, a storage room for the catering supplies, stainless steel counters and tubs and things of that sort. There will be an entrance off of Pelican for the caterers. They'll drive in, they can unload their trucks, bring everything into the catering kitchen and the service area. And then there's a big serving area that's very extensive. That'll be accessible for buffets.
That makes sense.
It'll be accessible from the grand hall, which is going to be on the other side of this space, with two big double doors and 2 rows of people to access the serving tables and everything. And then there'll be a great view out through the other side of the building, out to the inner harbor. And out that way also will be our bar, which is a bar that's going to be used for catered events. And outside of that will be a screen porch. So at the screen porch, the building takes a kind of a dog leg back this way towards the administrative offices. And then it makes a dog leg back toward the parking lot that way. And there's wonderful views with covered, shaded seating areas, outside seating areas that are about 15 feet wide and covered all the way down along the building. So anybody can sit out here at their convenience have a beer or a coffee or whatever they want to do, watch sunrises from that direction, sunsets from that direction, and it'll be a wonderful, beautiful facility.
So you talked about the screened area in there. Is that going to be accessible for people to do it in case it's a little buggy? We know that there's always a breeze coming off the water, but just in case that time of year where it's, the mosquitoes are biting.
It's a screen porch. It will accommodate, I think, as I remember, about 28 or 30 people comfortably. Okay. And you'll have access to the inside of the building. If you're outside and you need to go back in, if you're out in the screened in porch area, taking a break, then you can go back into the building to go back into your meeting or the other functions that are going on inside. Well, as you know, we talked to many, many architects and many community planners.
When you say many, how many is that, Bill?
We had interviews and reviewed about 19 different architectural firms, mostly throughout North Carolina, but some as far away as Las Vegas, actually, who had an interest in this project. Many of the people we talked to are in the business of designing this kind of a facility for communities like ours. They are the experts, and we relied upon them to give us up-to-date information on what they think is their best things to include and not include. And that's why we ended up with the plan that we did.
Isn't there like a list of, 5 main components that most community centers offer? And are we capturing that? And if we're not capturing it, why?
No, we are capturing it because we've included all of these things that people want to have in a community center. There probably are many other things which are kind of not so important, maybe to the bigger group of people. Some of those facilities can happen in other areas, like we have the Red Sail Park. There's a lot of athletic activities that can happen over there, so they don't need to happen here.
So I think what you're trying to say is there is really a division between what is called a community center and a rec center.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. The community center is basically a meeting place. And we've already talked about the 62 clubs that we have, and we just have inadequate facilities currently to handle all of those clubs and their requirements for their meetings. So a rec center is more, you might have a weight room, you might have an exercise room, you might have stuff like that. And that's not necessarily compatible with what we have in this facility.
And why would you ever want the architects to combine those two? Aren't those two separate events that you do? Meaning, like, if you're going to have an event that's taking the great room, do you really want people coming in and out of exercise equipment or their bathing suit?
That was one of the things we talked about early on. This is going to be a building for the community. There might eventually be weddings for residents and their grandkids or children or something like that. So there will be a number of weddings in the grand hall.
Or celebration of life, or
lots of things.
Yeah.
And we didn't want somebody that was going to be walking through that area with a towel over their head and water running down their body and interfering with the more kind of a formal activity that might be going on. The requirements for the square footage were determined by the sizes of the various rooms, the meeting rooms, the size of the grand hall that we needed to accommodate up to 288 people, and the other supplemental areas like the screen porch, the bar, the catering kitchen, and those types of things. Those are pretty much determined by the needs of our community.
Is there a reason that 288 seats in the grand hall is necessary? Why couldn't we made it for 400 so we don't have to have, 2 events?
Well, once you get into a group that large, you get into special design, safety issues and things of that sort that you don't have to have if you're under 300 people.
So, Bill, let's talk about why did you do a master plan, the committee, initially? Why didn't you just design the community center and then do phase 2, phase 3 later on? Meaning like what we're calling Pelican Park, where the grandstand or the bandstand will be, and then across the street, what we were talking about, where the pool and what you had mentioned about more of a small scaled down rec center where it would have weight equipment and then those type of activities.
Okay. Well, initially we had 3 components to this project. The number 1 component was the clubhouse. The number 2 component was the bandstand and the the space over there for concerts and so forth, the amphitheater. The third space would have been for a pool and an exercise room. Okay, so what we wanted to do early on, we had no concept. We couldn't put a hard number on the total cost. So we were trying to attempt to get as much as we could for what we were able to talk with the banks over a period of time and what we thought we could budget. So as we went along, there were a couple things that had to get omitted in order to get the number one project, which was the clubhouse.
Isn't that kind of normal when you actually build anything?
Right.
You know, you establish a budget and then you can actually see what your budget will actually handle.
Well,
and then you're able to add or modify to it accordingly?
Yeah, in the last couple of years, construction prices, material prices have been all over the place, mostly up. And we're now in a period where things have stabilized a bit, and some things are actually coming down. So we're at a good point here to be building this thing because of the nature of the construction business right now. And pricing is a little more stable and a little more favorable for us to get as much as we can out of this project. Okay, let's walk over here through the catering kitchen and into the grand hall, which would be about right here. And the grand hall is a grand hall. It is about 3,600 square feet. And we have two existing stages. We have one existing stage that can be knocked down and disassembled for the chorus. And we have another one for the Harbour Light players. And those two stages, when they're assembled and in place, will be over in that area facing Pelican. We have a little bump out on the north side of the building that's built and bumped out especially for these two stages. And
do you see those stages always being in place?
No,
or
no.
They can be broken down so the room can expand. So if we have an event where people need to sit, they can seat and be seated. And then in the event where it's more of a dining situation, you can put the round tables and people surrounding those.
Exactly. And you can have, that would be a space where there might be a band. Say you have a wedding venue or something of that sort going on, the band can be in that area.
Perfect.
The other thing about this space is that there is going to be an abundance of natural light coming in from up above. We have a couple of dormers and we got a cupola up there. We have a lot of glass looking off to the north where Pelican is. We have a lot of light looking out over the harbor. There's wonderful views all along this elevation over here.
So you're going to have peekaboo from the front to the back and the back to the front.
That's right.
So, okay. That'll be pretty. Where are we going now, Bill?
We're going to move through the grand hall and we're going to approach the entry vestibule coming off of the parking area, which is right up this way.
What will that house? Will that have the bathrooms up there?
Yeah, we will have, this entry vestibule is a space that will have a vaulted ceiling. It's going to be a really exciting place with some exposed wood beams. On the left side, on the north side over here, will be restrooms for men and women, very adequately sized. And on the right-hand side will be a little kind of a sub-lobby area for people that if they get dropped off, let's say there's somebody coming in a car, the lady gets dropped off, she could go over here and kind of wait for the husband or whatever to come up and then go into the grand hall. There's also
like a gathering space before you go into the grand hall.
It's a small area. There'll be some seating in there and everything, and for people just kind of get together and then before they come into the grand hall.
Okay.
Also in this space, we have two separate storage areas for tables and chairs. There'll be one on the north side and one on the south side. And when the tables and chairs aren't being used, they can be folded up and rolled into the storage spaces. And then when they're used, everything's out. There will also be a part of that one storage room on this south side will actually double as a coat closet. We're going to have a Dutch door going into that room. And so when the tables and chairs are out of that setup for a function, people can put coats in there and things of that sort.
So for people to try to understand first, I know sometimes it's difficult to imagine, but is it kind of like a narthex, unlike in a church?
Sure.
Exactly. It's that gathering spot before you go into...
That's right. That's
into
right.
the church
And as you
or the
come
sanctuary.
from the parking lot into this space, you're going to be looking through some magnificent glass doors up into this whole great hall area with all this natural light coming through.
Okay, that would be
Yeah.
beautiful. So, Bill, where are we heading now?
Okay, we're going to be in the area where the covered screen porch is.
So we're really actually, I didn't imagine that, but we're really close to the water now. Wow,
We
we
are
can actually
close to the
feel the
water.
breeze off the
We are close to
harbor.
the water, and this is the area where the building actually makes a 45-degree turn, makes a dog leg. So all of this area down to the east will be part of the covered shaded porch. You'll have the screened room here, and then the building takes a dog leg that way, and then the view will continue to the inner harbor down that way, which will be covered. So you've got this whole panoramic view.
Talk to me a little about, so we're sitting here out on the veranda, so to speak, right?
Right.
Do you imagine there'll be rocking chairs that we can sit and have a drink, and talk to me about what's beyond this? So what's the topography and landscaping?
First thing, I think we have to find a supplier of a large quantity of Adirondack chairs.
Perfect.
To put out here. And this shaded space is available for anybody at any time. I mean, they don't have to have a function going on to come over here and just sit out here, look at the water, watch the boats going by, and just really enjoy the space.
Okay.
All right.
So is it going to be, do you see, as you go out, there's going to be a tiered space with a lawn space? So if they need to set up tents or they're going to do wine events or anything like that, if it's a beautiful day that they can expand from the inside to the outside?
This will all be natural grass leading down to the water. And you're right, tents can be set up here for any outside activities that don't happen in the building. And it's a great spot for that.
Perfect.
Then beyond this, I mean, you've got a great view all the way down to the west to the end of the inner harbor. All the houses over on Gondolier Peninsula and all the cul-de-sacs over there. Over here is Spring Creek. So you've got a view of Spring Creek over here. And then you've got another view that way of Kia Court and some of the residential areas down there.
Like
so it's a
270 degrees, almost. Easily that you have here. Impressive. I mean, I think if I was to come to this facility, I would be impressed. I think I now understand why you guys picked this location.
Yes, we did. Well, we started this planning process really in about 2005. And it's been going on for years and years and years. This most recent club committee was started about 2.5 years ago, and we had 6 members on our committee. We interviewed, as I said earlier, I think about 19 different architects from all over the place. A lot of them were eliminated quickly because we wanted a building that represented the architectural style of coastal Carolina. We didn't want a mountain resort. We didn't want a mountain lodge or something of that sort. We wanted something to represent the architecture of this part of the state. And most of those guys were doing, particularly up in the Raleigh area, they were designing, shiny metal and glass buildings and modern contemporary things. And that's not what we wanted to do.
So we wanted to blend in with the natural surroundings.
Exactly.
So it looked like as though it had always been here and planned here.
Exactly right. And the other thing I haven't mentioned yet is one of the major concepts with this building was that it be handicap accessible. We have obviously a lot of retirees here, and handicap consideration was one of the main things that we thought about.
Well, I know that some people have said, well, why didn't the committee just go up, versus going more linear? What was the thought process behind that?
Cost, for one thing. I mean, when you get into a multi-story building, let's just say a 2-story building, now you're into elevators and you got special access requirements for fire codes, fire access and things of that sort. It just would have driven the cost up significantly. All right. Now we're at the west end of the new Harbour Club, and we're approaching where the new bandstand will be located. And we've had numerous events in the last year or two that have been very successful. And this is a great spot because we've got the inner harbor in the background. You've got the natural slope of the land going up. People come here and they park their golf carts up on the hillside beyond here. And we've got these a couple of pine trees right here that kind of shade this spot. And this was a very important element. As I said earlier, this is one of the 3 major elements to the building. And this is just going to be a great spot.
Let's talk about where we are right now, where the parking is.
Right.
And this is being planned for the future vendors, or
Right.
what are they called?
Food trucks.
Food trucks. Yes. That they can come here, and then they'll be able to also be able to power up, right? So we don't have
That's
to.
right.
Okay.
That's right. We've got space. We got space for about 4 or 5 food trucks in here. And it's just a great site for a bandstand. The bandstand will be raised up. The floor of the bandstand will probably be at about 8 feet above sea level. And it'll be a raised slab construction with a shed roof up above to keep the band members and instruments out of the weather, out of the rain, in case something happens during a concert.
I mean, kind of like the weather right now?
Yeah.
So is that going to be enclosed, or are going to be, so like if I'm coming by boat, I want to be able to hear the sound, and yeah, I might not be able to see who's on stage, but the front of them, but I'll actually be able to see everything else.
No, we initially had it kind of enclosed. And once we started looking at that really didn't make any sense from the perspective you're talking about. People coming from a boat and sitting out here anchored in the inner harbor. So all 4 sides of the new bandstand will be open, and they can see the band, they can hear the band, and it'll be great.
So as an audience member, I'm looking at the water and at the band at the same time. Yes. Yeah. And then, so the golf carts are behind me. Right. And then on a hot day, we're always getting the breeze coming towards our face.
Exactly.
So I guess, Bill, we're out here for a reason. And why was this place chosen by the committee?
Okay. Well, we had selected 4 different sites within the community that we wanted to examine to see their potential for a new clubhouse facility. This site met all of our requirements. This site is accessible by boat, by golf cart. You can walk here, you can drive here. We also have all the existing utilities in place in this site that we didn't have in other sites. And the other thing was, this is a very high elevation. The floor elevation in the new building is established at 14 feet above sea level, which is the level that we have at the top of the knoll over there. So again, it's handicap accessible, but it's at a high elevation, so flooding will not be a problem on this site.
You went to 14 feet. Why not 12? Isn't that what code is?
Well, the natural high of the site is at 14 feet, so there's really no reason to make it anything less than that.
Perfect. So it's been, what, almost 20 years in the making, and I think we're there. And actually, in truth, I think that the $100 increases have put us there. That will cover actually the mortgage and the operating costs. Do you see anything foreseeable in the future for any other reason that dues would need to be increased to handle this?
Not this club. I mean, there may be other dues increases down the years for other things. You mean other improvements, other capital projects and things of that sort that we determine we need. But for right now, the 3 $100 increases that we've had for the last 3 years are going to fund this thing in total for 15 years, 15-year loan.
So the current raising, the 3 $100 increments, have made the dues now at $1,395. So that means that pays the mortgage for the next 15 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's ongoing. That $300, that stays in place. That doesn't go up or down. That stays in place.
So like, I know a lot of people says, well, it's now $7 million. Our dues are going to double to be able to pay that.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
Okay.